Imagine a sun-faded beach towel, its threads still clinging to the ghost of salt and the laughter of childhood summers. For the Miller family and 9 other families in a quiet Florida coastal town, that towel wasn't just a nostalgic keepsake, it was the cruelest relic, a silent scream from a day that ripped their world apart. The summer of 1996, a season typically painted with vibrant hues of joy and freedom, instead became etched in the collective memory of an entire nation as a chilling tableau of absence. 10 American children, among them siblings Sarah and David Miller, vanished without a trace during what should have been an idyllic beach outing. The boundless ocean, a playground one moment, transformed into a terrifying indifferent void, swallowing not just their forms, but the very hopes and dreams of heartbroken parents, whose frantic calls were met only by the relentless whisper of the waves. Years bled into decades. The initial whirlwind of desperate search parties, the blinding glare of media scrutiny, the hopeful but ultimately fruitless investigations, all of it gradually faded into a quiet, agonizing ache. A town, once bustling with summer vitality, learned to live with a wound that refused to heal, a question mark hanging heavy over every sunrise and sunset. The world moved on, but for these families, time itself seemed to stand still, trapped in the amber of an unresolved tragedy. The missing children posters yellowed and peeled, yet the faces remained vivid in the minds of those who loved them, their stories whispered as cautionary tales, a stark reminder of the ocean's deceptive power and the fragility of human existence. Then, 28 years later, just as the collective memory of the 96 vanishing threatened to recede into the realm of forgotten cold cases, a shocking discovery ripped open old wounds and ignited a fresh wave of unsettling questions. Deep within a remote, marshy inlet, far from the bustling beach where they were last seen, a collection of clothes emerged. Not scattered, not decayed by the relentless march of time and tide, but perfectly preserved, eerily folded. The fabrics, once vibrant with youthful energy, now spoke of a silent, chilling truth, a paradox that defied logic. How could garments, exposed to the elements for nearly 3 decades, remain so untouched, so pristine, so deliberately arranged? This isn't merely a story of disappearance. It's a profound exploration into the nature of time itself, the enduring power of mysteries, and the unsettling ways in which the environment can both destroy and preserve. It forces us to confront the limits of our understanding, to peer into the unsettling possibility that some truths lie hidden not just by human deceit, but by the very fabric of our world. The discovery of these clothes doesn't just pull an entire nation back into the heart of a mystery. It challenges our assumptions about decay, about evidence, and about the relentless human quest for closure. We are compelled to ask, what truly happened to the 10 vanished kids of 96, and what silent forces conspired to keep their story alive, almost perfectly preserved, for nearly 3 decades? The initial shock of the children's disappearance in 1996 reverberated far beyond the sun-drenched shores of that Florida town, carving a deep chasm in the national consciousness. It was a summer already marked by a heightened sense of vulnerability, a period when the innocence of childhood seemed increasingly besieged by the unknown. News cycles, still in their nascent digital evolution, were dominated by the unfolding tragedy, broadcasting the anguished faces of parents and the grim determination of search and rescue teams across every television screen. The small coastal community, previously known for its pristine beaches and laid-back charm, became a somber stage for a real-life horror. A place where the ordinary act of a family beach day could suddenly transform into an unfathomable nightmare. The early days were a blur of coordinated efforts, Coast Guard vessels crisscrossing the waters, local law enforcement scouring every dune and thicket, volunteers distributing flyers with the smiling faces of the missing. Divers probed the murky depths, helicopters provided aerial surveillance, and K-9 units worked tirelessly along the shoreline, each effort fueled by a desperate hope that dwindled with every passing hour. The sheer scale of the search was unprecedented for the region, reflecting the profound public outcry and the collective determination to bring the children home. Yet as days turned into weeks and weeks into months, the leads grew colder, the tips more desperate, and the official pronouncements increasingly grim. The initial theory, a tragic mass drowning, was explored exhaustively, but the absence of any bodies despite the extensive search left a gaping hole in the explanation. The ocean, typically a source of recreation and beauty, became a symbol of a cruel, unyielding enigma. This was not just a local crisis, it became a national conversation about child safety, the unpredictability of nature, and the limits of human intervention in the face of the truly inexplicable. The enduring image from those early days was of the relentless, indifferent waves, erasing footprints as quickly as they appeared, mirroring the way the mystery seemed to swallow every potential clue. The town, once a vibrant tourist destination, slowly began to bear the scars of its loss, its festive atmosphere replaced by a palpable sense of grief and an unspoken question that lingered in the salty air. The context of the initial vanishing laid the groundwork for a mystery that would defy resolution for nearly 3 decades, setting the stage for the profound impact of the later discovery. The main concepts surrounding the 96 vanishing initially centered on a series of harrowing possibilities, each more terrifying than the last. The primary theory, a catastrophic drowning event, was meticulously investigated. Forensic oceanographers were consulted to model currents and potential drift patterns, considering the tides and weather conditions of that fateful day. However, the complete absence of any bodies, despite an extensive and prolonged search, defied conventional expectations for such a large-scale incident. It was an anomaly that fueled the persistent unease. Typically, ocean currents, even strong ones, would eventually return some evidence, some tragic confirmation, within a reasonable time frame, especially for 10 individuals. The fact that absolutely nothing surfaced challenged the purely accidental drowning narrative, pushing investigators to consider other, more sinister possibilities. The concept of an abduction, either by an individual or a group, also became a significant focus. Every suspicious vehicle, every unfamiliar face reported in the vicinity was thoroughly vetted. The FBI was brought in, applying their expertise in missing persons and child abduction cases. They examined the psychological profiles of potential perpetrators, reviewed similar cold cases, and analyzed every minute detail of the children's last known activities. The beach was treated as a crime scene, albeit one that had been thoroughly washed by the sea. They explored the possibility of a coordinated kidnapping, a scenario that, while terrifying, offered a tangible, albeit elusive, perpetrator. Yet without any demands, ransom notes, or credible eyewitness accounts of an abduction, this theory too remained in the realm of speculation, a frustrating void of evidence. The lack of any struggle, any sign of a disturbance on the beach, further complicated matters. It suggested either an incredibly swift and silent event or one that occurred beyond the immediate view of other beachgoers. The investigation also delved into the children's personal lives, their families, and any potential connections that might shed light on their disappearance, but no discernible links or motives ever emerged. The case became a chilling study in the absence of evidence, a void that conventional investigative methods struggled to fill. The children themselves, ranging in age from 5 to 12, were typical summer kids, full of life and excitement. Sarah Miller, the elder at 12, was known for her protective nature towards her younger brother David, who was 8. Their friends and fellow vanished children, a mix of local residents and summer visitors, formed a lively group that day, a vibrant tapestry of youthful energy that simply evaporated. These core facts, The 10 children, the busy beach, the sudden complete absence, and the lack of any initial evidence established the agonizing framework of a mystery that would, for decades, resist any clear resolution, only to be dramatically reopened by an almost unbelievable discovery. The broader implications of the 96 vanishing extend far beyond the immediate grief of the families and the bewilderment of the local community. This case, even before the recent discovery, became a cultural touchstone, subtly reshaping public consciousness regarding child safety and the inherent dangers lurking in seemingly idyllic settings. It contributed to a nationwide shift in parental vigilance, amplifying the stranger danger narrative and prompting more cautious approaches to unsupervised play, even in familiar environments. For many, the incident cemented a primal fear that the world, even the most beautiful parts of it, holds unpredictable malevolence. The story, told and retold in hushed tones, served as a stark reminder of humanity's vulnerability in the face of the unknown, whether that unknown was a rogue current or a hidden predator. Scientifically, the prolonged nature of the mystery, particularly the complete lack of physical evidence for so long, presented a fascinating, if tragic, case study for forensic science and search and rescue protocols. It highlighted the limitations of even advanced technologies when confronted with vast, dynamic environments like the ocean and marshlands. The baffling absence of remains challenged assumptions about decomposition rates and the typical trajectory of bodies lost at sea, forcing a re-evaluation of long-held forensic principles. Culturally, the incident became a recurring motif in local folklore, a whispered legend that warned newcomers and reminded residents of the town's enduring wound. It fostered a unique blend of collective grief and communal resilience, where annual memorials, though tinged with sadness, also served as acts of remembrance and solidarity. The discovery of the preserved clothes 28 years later catapults these implications into an entirely new dimension. It challenges our understanding of decay and preservation, particularly in complex wetland ecosystems. The question of how these items remained so pristine for so long in a typically destructive environment demands scientific scrutiny, potentially offering new insights into taphonomy, the study of how organisms decay and fossilize, and the unique preservative qualities of certain anaerobic or chemically balanced marshy environments. It also reignites the psychological impact, forcing a reconfrontation with unresolved trauma, not just for the immediate families, but for an entire generation who grew up hearing about the 96 vanished kids. The revelation forces a re-examination of the original investigation, prompting questions about overlooked areas, missed clues, or perhaps even an intentional misdirection that utilized the environment's deceptive properties. This discovery doesn't just reopen a cold case. It broadens our understanding of how time, nature, and human actions can conspire to create mysteries that defy simple solutions, embedding itself deeper into the fabric of our society's collective memory and our scientific curiosity. For nearly 3 decades, the 96 vanishing was shrouded in challenges, myths, and controversies that prevented any definitive closure. One of the most persistent myths was the rogue wave theory, suggesting a single immense wave swept all 10 children out to sea simultaneously. While large waves are certainly possible, the sheer improbability of 10 children of varying ages and swimming abilities being taken at once without any immediate witness or subsequent body recovery made this theory highly contentious among experts. Oceanographers pointed out that such an event would likely scatter the children, and some evidence would almost certainly surface. Another pervasive myth was the cult abduction theory, fueled by sensationalist media reports and the general public's fascination with secret societies. The idea of a coordinated ritualistic kidnapping gained traction in some circles, particularly given the lack of traditional abduction evidence like ransom demands. However, law enforcement found no credible links to any known cults or organized groups operating in the area with such a modus operandi. These theories, while providing a narrative for the unimaginable, often serve to obscure the genuine investigative challenges. The primary obstacle was the sheer absence of tangible evidence. The beach, a public space, was quickly compromised by the initial flurry of activity, and the ocean, by its very nature, is an unforgiving environment for preserving clues. The initial investigation faced criticism for its scope and focus. Some argued that too much emphasis was placed on the drowning theory early on, potentially delaying a full-scale criminal investigation. Others pointed to the difficulty of coordinating multiple agencies and jurisdictions in a rapidly unfolding crisis, leading to potential communication breakdowns or missed opportunities. The marshy inlet, where the clothes were found, adds a new layer of controversy. Why was this remote area, presumably within a reasonable search radius, not thoroughly investigated earlier? Was its inaccessibility a factor? Or does its very remoteness suggest a deliberate attempt to conceal the items, indicating human involvement rather than natural deposition? This raises questions about the thoroughness of the original ground searches and the challenges of navigating such difficult terrain. Moreover, the perfectly preserved, eerily folded state of the clothes directly challenges the natural decay expected over nearly 3 decades, especially in a wetland environment known for its high humidity and microbial activity. This fact alone debunks the idea of a purely natural accidental scenario, forcing a re-evaluation of how these items came to be there. It implies a deliberate act of placement, and perhaps an environment with unique anoxic conditions that slowed decomposition to an astonishing degree, or even the use of preservation techniques by an unknown party. The controversy now shifts from what happened to the kids to how did these clothes survive and who put them there. This new evidence doesn't merely reopen the case, it fundamentally alters the landscape of possibilities, pushing aside decades of speculation and forcing a confrontation with a chilling, calculated truth that time itself could not fully erase. The discovery of the perfectly preserved clothes in that remote marshy inlet doesn't just reopen the cold case of the 96 vanished kids, it fundamentally reshapes our understanding of the passage of time, the resilience of memory, and the relentless human pursuit of truth. For nearly 3 decades, the families lived with an agonizing silence, a void that no amount of searching or theorizing could fill. The faded beach towel, the empty bedroom, the unblown birthday candles, these were their only relics, symbols of a life interrupted. Now, these eerily preserved garments, vibrant with the ghosts of childhood, offer a tangible, yet deeply perplexing connection to the past. They challenge our very perception of decay, forcing us to consider environments where the normal rules of decomposition simply don't apply, or where external forces intervene to defy nature's relentless march. What unique anoxic conditions existed in that particular marsh, or what deliberate actions were taken to keep those fabrics so pristine, so untouched by the elements that would normally render them to dust? This paradox of preservation in an environment typically associated with decay is not just a scientific curiosity. It's a chilling piece of a puzzle that suggests a level of intention and foresight that human minds struggle to comprehend. This revelation forces us to look beyond the immediate tragedy and contemplate the broader implications of such enduring mysteries. It underscores the profound human need for closure, a psychological imperative that drives us to seek answers even when decades separate us from the event. For the families, these clothes are a bittersweet echo, a confirmation that their children existed, that their story is not forgotten, even as they intensify the anguish of unanswered questions. For society, it's a stark reminder that some narratives refuse to be buried by time, that the past can resurface with startling clarity, demanding our attention anew. It compels us to re-examine our assumptions about cold cases, about the power of environmental factors, and about the potential for human actions to leave traces that defy conventional understanding. The 96 vanishing was a tragedy of loss, but the discovery of the clothes transforms it into a profound mystery of persistence, persistence of the missing, persistence of the evidence, and persistence of the human spirit in seeking resolution. As we ponder the implications of this astonishing find, we are left with a lingering question that extends beyond the specific facts of this case. What other silent truths lie hidden beneath the surface of our world, waiting for the precise convergence of time and circumstance to reveal themselves? What other stories, seemingly lost to the relentless currents of history, might one day resurface, perfectly preserved, to challenge our understanding and rekindle our curiosity? The mystery of the 10 vanished kids of 96, now amplified by this incredible discovery, is a testament to the enduring power of the unknown, a poignant reminder that the world holds secrets far more intricate and unsettling than we often imagine. It serves as a powerful call to remain curious, to question the obvious, and to never underestimate the capacity of both nature and humanity to defy expectations, leaving us to forever piece together the fragments of an unforgettable truth. Now consider how the analytical landscape has been irrevocably altered by such an unprecedented discovery. When those 10 children vanished in 1996, forensic science, while robust, operated within significantly different technological parameters. Digital forensics was in its infancy, and DNA profiling, though revolutionary, lacked the sensitivity and sophistication available today. Consequently, the reopening of this case, catalyzed by the preserved garments, allows investigators to deploy a formidable arsenal of contemporary techniques that simply didn't exist or were not widely accessible 3 decades prior. This isn't merely a matter of re-examining old files, it's about introducing an entirely new lens through which to scrutinize every fiber and every environmental trace. Furthermore, this unprecedented discovery compels a re-evaluation of the entire investigative paradigm. Modern advancements like touch DNA analysis can potentially extract genetic material from the clothes themselves, even from skin cells transferred through a brief contact, offering a pathway to identify individuals who may have handled the items. Environmental DNA, eDNA techniques for instance, could analyze soil and water samples from the marsh to identify specific flora and fauna, or even microbial communities unique to that precise location, creating a detailed ecological fingerprint. This could potentially link the site to other locations or provide clues about the conditions under which the clothes were placed. Beyond biological markers, stable isotope analysis, a technique that examines the ratios of different isotopes in materials, could potentially pinpoint the geographical origins of the fabrics or even trace the children's diets in the months leading up to their disappearance, offering subtle but profound insights into their movements or circumstances. The marsh itself, once a mere backdrop, now becomes a critical piece of evidence, amenable to LiDAR scanning and advanced topographical mapping to reveal hidden access points or disturbances. However, the chilling implication of the perfectly folded garments extends beyond forensic science into the realm of criminal psychology. This meticulous arrangement of clothing, seemingly untouched by the elements and deliberately placed, suggests a level of premeditation and control that stands in stark contrast to the initial theories of a chaotic, accidental drowning. Such precision hints at a perpetrator who is not only organized and detail-oriented, but possibly derives a perverse satisfaction from the very act of concealment and the subsequent prolonged mystery. This isn't the impulsive act of a panicked individual. It speaks to a calculated, almost ritualistic approach, Consider for a moment the psychological profile of someone who would take the time to carefully fold children's clothes, then place them in a remote, inaccessible location, preserving them for decades. This level of deliberate action points towards a deeply disturbed individual, potentially someone who maintains a connection to the event, perhaps even revisiting the site, fueling a terrifying new dimension to the investigation. Beyond the scientific, a chilling psychological dimension emerges. The act of folding the clothes, rather than simply discarding them, could be interpreted as a macabre form of preservation, a twisted memorial, or even a symbolic act of control over the victim's memory. This deliberate staging, surviving for nearly 30 years, challenges the notion of a simple, opportunistic crime. It suggests a perpetrator with a sophisticated understanding of the environment, or perhaps an intimate knowledge of the marsh's unique properties, allowing for such an astonishing degree of preservation. This new evidence forces investigators to consider a profile that includes high intelligence, meticulous planning, and a profound lack of empathy, a far cry from the more generalized assumptions that often surround mass disappearances. The focus shifts from merely finding the children to understanding the mind that orchestrated such a prolonged and haunting enigma, adding a layer of psychological complexity that demands an entirely fresh analytical approach. The re-emergence of these silent, folded fabrics unleashes a profound societal earthquake, jolting a collective memory that had long lain dormant. Imagine the emotional reverberations across a nation, suddenly forced to revisit a wound it had, perhaps unconsciously, tried to scar over. For the families directly impacted, this isn't merely a reopening of a case. It's a profound re-traumatization, a cruel reignition of a grief that had settled into a numb, chronic ache. The fragile peace they might have found, built on the acceptance of unknowing, is shattered, replaced by a terrifying resurgence of hope, intertwined with the fresh agony of new, even more perplexing questions. This discovery compels communities, both local and national, to confront the uncomfortable truth that some narratives refuse to be neatly concluded, forcing a renewed dialogue about the enduring power of absence and the universal human desire for resolution. Consequently, the legal landscape for such a protracted mystery becomes incredibly complex, presenting an unparalleled challenge to the justice system. Consider the immense hurdles prosecutors now face. Witnesses, if still alive, are decades older, their memories faded, potentially altered by time or repeated retellings. Physical evidence from the original beach scene, if it existed, is long gone or contaminated. Establishing a chain of custody for newly discovered items after nearly 3 decades requires meticulous validation. The legal standards and investigative techniques of 1996 differ significantly from today's, creating a labyrinth of procedural and evidentiary issues. This situation demands an extraordinary level of legal innovation, potentially setting new precedents for how cold cases, particularly those involving such unique circumstances, can be effectively pursued in a modern court of law, pushing the boundaries of what constitutes admissible evidence after such a prolonged period. Furthermore, the human element of memory itself becomes a central, yet profoundly unreliable piece of the puzzle. How does an individual accurately recall details from a single day nearly 30 years ago, especially one imbued with such trauma? Memories are not static recordings. They are fluid, reconstructive processes, easily influenced by subsequent information, media reports, and even wishful thinking. The task of separating genuine, unadulterated recollection from the layers of accumulated speculation and narrative becomes an almost insurmountable challenge for investigators. This phenomenon extends beyond individual witnesses to the collective memory of the town itself, where folklore and whispered theories have likely solidified into perceived truths over the decades, making the reconstruction of objective facts a delicate, almost archaeological endeavor. Another crucial layer is the transformation of the public sphere and the instantaneous dissemination of information. In 1996, news traveled through traditional channels. Today, a discovery of this magnitude would explode across social media platforms within minutes. This shift brings both immense potential and significant peril. On one hand, it could crowdsource invaluable information, bringing forward individuals who might possess overlooked details or unique insights. Conversely, it creates a fertile ground for unchecked speculation, misinformation, and amateur sleuthing that, while well-intentioned, can easily derail an official investigation, compromise potential witnesses, or inadvertently incriminate innocent parties. The ethical responsibility of both professional journalists and the online public in navigating such a sensitive, high-stakes scenario is therefore paramount, demanding a careful balance between transparency and the imperative to protect the integrity of the ongoing inquiry. Ultimately, this astonishing development speaks to a deeper, more philosophical implication about the nature of humanity's enduring quest for meaning and closure. The perfectly preserved clothes, emerging from the marsh like an artifact from a lost civilization, force us to confront the unsettling reality that some evils are meticulously planned, that some truths are deliberately hidden, and that the world occasionally reveals secrets in ways that defy our most rational expectations. It compels us to acknowledge the inherent human desire to complete narratives, to fill in the blanks, particularly when innocence is lost. This case transcends a mere criminal investigation. It becomes a profound rumination on the relentless march of time, the unsettling persistence of the unknown, and the unwavering hope that eventually even the most deeply buried secrets will find their way to the light. The re-emergence of these silent folded fabrics unleashes a profound societal earthquake, jolting a collective memory that had long lain dormant. Imagine the emotional reverberations across a nation, suddenly forced to revisit a wound it had, perhaps unconsciously, tried to scar over. For the families directly impacted, this isn't merely a reopening of a case. It's a profound re-traumatization, a cruel reignition of a grief that had settled into a numb, chronic ache. The fragile peace they might have found, built on the acceptance of unknowing, is shattered, replaced by a terrifying resurgence of hope, intertwined with the fresh agony of new, even more perplexing questions. This discovery compels communities, both local and national, to confront the uncomfortable truth that some narratives refuse to be neatly concluded, forcing a renewed dialogue about the enduring power of absence and the universal human desire for resolution. Consequently, the legal landscape for such a protracted mystery becomes incredibly complex, presenting an unparalleled challenge to the justice system. Consider the immense hurdles prosecutors now face. Witnesses, if still alive, are decades older, their memories faded, potentially altered by time or repeated retellings. Physical evidence from the original beach scene, if it existed, is long gone or contaminated. Establishing a chain of custody for newly discovered items after nearly 3 decades requires meticulous validation. The legal standards and investigative techniques of 1996 differ significantly from today's, creating a labyrinth of procedural and evidentiary issues. This situation demands an extraordinary level of legal innovation, potentially setting new precedents for how cold cases, particularly those involving such unique circumstances, can be effectively pursued in a modern court of law, pushing the boundaries of what constitutes admissible evidence after such a prolonged period. Furthermore, the human element of memory itself becomes a central, yet profoundly unreliable piece of the puzzle. How does an individual accurately recall details from a single day nearly 30 years ago, especially one imbued with such trauma? Memories are not static recordings. They are fluid, reconstructive processes, easily influenced by subsequent information, media reports, and even wishful thinking. The task of separating genuine, unadulterated recollection from the layers of accumulated speculation and narrative becomes an almost insurmountable challenge for investigators. This phenomenon extends beyond individual witnesses to the collective memory of the town itself, where folklore and whispered theories have likely solidified into perceived truths over the decades, making the reconstruction of objective facts a delicate, almost archaeological endeavor. Another crucial layer is the transformation of the public sphere and the instantaneous dissemination of information. In 1996, news traveled through traditional channels. Today, a discovery of this magnitude would explode across social media platforms within minutes. This shift brings both immense potential and significant peril. On one hand, it could crowdsource invaluable information, bringing forward individuals who might possess overlooked details or unique insights. Conversely, it creates a fertile ground for unchecked speculation, misinformation, and amateur sleuthing that, while well-intentioned, can easily derail an official investigation, compromise potential witnesses, or inadvertently incriminate innocent parties. The ethical responsibility of both professional journalists and the online public in navigating such a sensitive, high-stakes scenario is therefore paramount, demanding a careful balance between transparency and the imperative to protect the integrity of the ongoing inquiry. Ultimately, this astonishing development speaks to a deeper, more philosophical implication about the nature of humanity's enduring quest for meaning and closure. The perfectly preserved clothes, emerging from the marsh like an artifact from a lost civilization, force us to confront the unsettling reality that some evils are meticulously planned, that some truths are deliberately hidden, and that the world occasionally reveals secrets in ways that defy our most rational expectations. It compels us to acknowledge the inherent human desire to complete narratives, to fill in the blanks, particularly when innocence is lost. This case transcends a mere criminal investigation. It becomes a profound rumination on the relentless march of time, the unsettling persistence of the unknown, and the unwavering hope that, eventually, even the most deeply buried secrets will find their way to the light. The very perfection of the preservation, while astonishing, introduces a unique set of forensic challenges that defy conventional expectations. It is not merely about what biological or trace evidence can be found on such aged material, but how to interpret it without succumbing to the allure of a seemingly pristine artifact. Contamination risks, whether from the initial discovery, handling by well-meaning but untrained individuals, or even environmental deposition over decades, are profoundly amplified. Distinguishing between original perpetrator DNA and later innocent transfers becomes a high-stakes scientific tightrope walk. Moreover, the absence of expected degradation patterns could, paradoxically, obscure crucial time markers or environmental interactions that would typically aid in reconstructing the timeline and circumstances of the item's placement, leaving forensic scientists to grapple with an enigma of arrested decay. Beyond the how of preservation lies the deeply unsettling why. This meticulous, almost artistic arrangement of the children's garments in such a remote location sparks a profound psychological debate that challenges standard criminal profiling. Is this a perpetrator's macabre trophy, a carefully curated display of power and control over the narrative, designed to torment and bewilder? Or does it hint at a distorted sense of remembrance, a twisted homage to their victims, revealing a deeply disturbed psyche that seeks to keep the memory alive in its own horrifying way? This intentionality, so distinct from the chaotic, desperate actions often associated with crimes of passion or accidental tragedies, opens a controversial door to a chillingly calculated mind, forcing a re-evaluation of every assumption about the nature of the crime. The discovery inevitably casts a harsh spotlight on the original 1996 investigation, not merely for its limitations, but for potential systemic blind spots. One might question if prevailing assumptions of the era, perhaps an over-reliance on conventional search patterns, inadvertently overlooked the specific ecological nuances of the marsh, assuming the ocean was the sole agent of fate. Was there a critical misdirection of resources and attention because the prevailing criminal profiling of the mid-90s, often focusing on transient threats or known offenders, inadvertently missed signs of a local predator or an individual operating outside typical behavioral patterns? This scrutiny generates considerable public discourse, fueling debates about the evolution of investigative methodologies and the accountability for past omissions. The reignition of this mystery in the age of instant information presents novel ethical dilemmas for all involved. Law enforcement faces immense public pressure for immediate answers, yet the integrity of a decades-old crime scene demands painstaking, often secretive methodology that clashes with the public's demand for transparency. The media, too, walks a tightrope between informing a deeply invested public and avoiding sensationalism or the inadvertent dissemination of unverified theories that could compromise the investigation or inflict further pain on the families. This delicate balance, fraught with the potential for missteps, becomes a significant point of public contention, where the pursuit of truth must constantly navigate the pitfalls of premature judgment and the viral spread of speculation. Even with seemingly perfect evidence like the preserved clothes, a critical controversy arises: the myth of perfect evidence. While the garments offer an unprecedented physical link, they cannot by themselves narrate the full sequence of events, nor can they definitively identify a perpetrator without corroborating context. The risk of confirmation bias is heightened. The intense desire for answers can inadvertently lead investigators and the public to interpret ambiguous details through a predetermined lens, potentially distorting the true narrative and creating new, equally insidious myths around the findings. This highlights the inherent limitations of even the most astonishing discoveries in fully resolving complex historical enigmas, reminding us that evidence, no matter how pristine, is only one piece of a much larger, often incomplete puzzle. The unprecedented longevity of this cold case, now dramatically re-energized, thrusts a fundamental legal and ethical quandary into sharp relief: the concept of justice delayed. After nearly 3 decades, the very notion of a fair trial for a potential suspect becomes a minefield of complexities. Witnesses, should any still exist and be able to recall precise details, would face immense challenges in providing credible testimony, their memories having been subjected to the erosion of time, the influence of media narratives, and the natural process of subjective reconstruction. Furthermore, the defense might argue that the passage of so much time inherently prejudices the accused, making it impossible to mount an effective defense as alibis fade and corroborating evidence vanishes. This raises critical questions about how society balances the victims' families' undeniable right to closure with the fundamental principles of due process, pushing the boundaries of legal precedent in prosecuting crimes of such vintage. This astonishing discovery also intensifies a long-simmering controversy regarding the perpetrator's identity. Was it an insider or an outsider? For years, the lack of a clear motive or suspect led to speculation about transient individuals passing through the coastal town. However, the meticulous, almost ceremonial arrangement of the children's clothes, coupled with their remote, specific placement within the marsh, fundamentally shifts this debate. Such an intimate knowledge of the local environment, particularly an obscure inlet not easily accessible or widely known, strongly suggests a perpetrator with deep local ties. This refuels heated discussions within the community, sparking suspicion and re-examining interactions from nearly 30 years ago through a chilling new lens, potentially tearing at the fabric of trust among long-time residents. Moreover, the sheer anomaly of the clothes' preservation, defying natural decay, inevitably fuels a new wave of elaborate conspiracy theories, far beyond the initial speculation of simple abduction. This isn't merely a case of missing children. It's a phenomenon that challenges scientific understanding, making it fertile ground for narratives involving everything from highly sophisticated, secret organizations with advanced preservation techniques to more outlandish theories touching upon supernatural elements or even previously unimaginable criminal enterprises. The public, grappling with the inexplicable, often seeks explanations in the extraordinary, and the perfectly preserved aspect of this discovery acts as a powerful catalyst for the proliferation of such complex, often unsettling alternative realities, further muddying the waters for official investigation. A pressing ethical and practical challenge arises concerning the very environment that yielded this discovery, the marsh itself. This delicate ecosystem, a vibrant habitat for diverse flora and fauna, now stands as a potential crime scene of immense historical significance. The imperative to conduct a thorough forensic excavation and analysis clashes directly with the principles of environmental conservation. How can investigators meticulously search, dig, and analyze without causing irreparable damage to this fragile wetland? Who holds ultimate jurisdiction over such a sensitive area? This creates a contentious debate between environmental protection agencies, local authorities, and law enforcement, each with valid but often conflicting priorities, adding another layer of complexity to an already intricate investigation. The ingrained public narrative surrounding the 1996 vanishing presents yet another significant hurdle. For decades, the collective memory has likely solidified around certain prevailing theories, whether it be a mass drowning, a random abduction, or a local urban legend. Now, with the emergence of evidence that fundamentally contradicts these long-held assumptions, there's an immense challenge in recalibrating public perception. The human tendency to cling to established narratives makes it difficult to accept radically new information, especially when it dismantles a decades-old, albeit painful, form of understanding. This internal conflict within the public consciousness can manifest as resistance to new findings, skepticism towards official explanations, or a continued adherence to familiar, even if disproven, stories. Finally, should a perpetrator eventually be identified and apprehended, an unavoidable societal controversy will emerge regarding the very definition of justice for someone who has lived a seemingly normal, unpunished life for nearly 3 decades. Is it truly possible to exact justice for crimes committed so long ago, particularly if the individual has since reformed or integrated into society? This ignites a profound debate about culpability, redemption, and the societal expectation of reckoning, regardless of the passage of time. It forces us to confront whether the ghost of the crime can ever truly be laid to rest, or if its discovery, even after generations, demands a full and unyielding accounting. The astonishing emergence of these artifacts from the marsh, decades after the fact, compels us to consider the profound implications for our understanding of the human narrative itself. It transcends the immediate pursuit of justice and forces a deeper meditation on how certain stories, despite every attempt by time or design to erase them, possess an inherent tenacity, an almost spiritual refusal to fade into oblivion. This isn't merely a cold case reopened. It's a vivid illustration of how the collective human consciousness, an intricate tapestry woven from shared experiences and anxieties, retains an imprint of profound loss, patiently awaiting the faintest thread of new information. The very act of these clothes resurfacing speaks to a universal, almost primal need for truth, a quiet insistence that some chapters in our shared history simply cannot remain unfinished. Consider for a moment the active role of time in this unfolding drama. We often perceive time as a relentless devourer, eroding memory and evidence alike. Yet in this instance, time has acted as a paradoxical preserver, a meticulously slow sculptor revealing its secrets only when it deems fit. It challenges our linear perception of cause and effect, suggesting that some truths are not merely uncovered, but are, in a sense, revealed by the very passage of epochs. This natural yet utterly inexplicable act of preservation transforms the marsh from a mere location into an active participant, a silent custodian of a chilling secret, holding it in trust until the moment of its destined rediscovery. It prompts a fascinating contemplation. What other profound secrets does our natural world hold, meticulously safeguarding them until the precise confluence of circumstances allows for their dramatic unveiling? Building on this, the enduring power of narrative takes center stage. Long after the initial headlines faded, the story of the vanished children persisted, whispered in hushed tones, a local legend that instilled a subtle, pervasive caution. The discovery of the clothes breathes new life into this narrative, not as a conclusion, but as a catalyst for its re-evaluation, its retelling, and its reinterpretation through the lens of modern understanding. It reminds us that stories, particularly those steeped in mystery and human vulnerability, possess an almost immortal quality, shaping cultural memory and influencing generations who never directly experienced the original event. This ongoing narrative serves as a potent reminder of the inherent fragility of life and the persistent human drive to comprehend the incomprehensible. Moreover, this unparalleled event serves as a profound invitation to sustained inquiry, not just for law enforcement, but for every curious mind. It beckons us to look closer, to question assumptions, and to embrace the notion that the world is far more complex and filled with hidden layers than our everyday perceptions suggest. The existence of these preserved garments, defying all logic, becomes a powerful symbol for the countless other unanswered questions that linger in the shadows of our history, urging us to maintain a vigilant and open mind, to continue probing the unknown with renewed determination. It reinforces the intrinsic value of curiosity itself, not as a fleeting interest, but as an essential engine for discovery and understanding. Ultimately, the saga of the 1996 vanishing, now imbued with this astonishing twist, compels a deeper reflection on empathy and the collective responsibility we share for those who are lost or silenced. It transcends the specifics of a criminal investigation and transforms into a universal plea for remembrance, a call to ensure that no life, particularly an innocent one, is ever truly forgotten, and no truth is left perpetually buried. The children's clothes, now speaking across decades, demand not just answers, but a re-engagement with the profound human cost of unresolved mysteries, challenging us to harness every available tool and every ounce of collective will to illuminate the darkest corners of our past. It leaves us with the poignant understanding that while time may heal some wounds, it can also, in its own enigmatic way, hold the key to unlocking others, proving that some stories once begun are simply destined to be completed, no matter how long the wait. The astonishing emergence of these artifacts from the marsh, decades after the fact, compels us to consider the profound implications for our understanding of the human narrative itself. It transcends the immediate pursuit of justice and forces a deeper meditation on how certain stories, despite every attempt by time or design to erase them, possess an inherent tenacity, an almost spiritual refusal to fade into oblivion. This isn't merely a cold case reopened. It's a vivid illustration of how the collective human consciousness, an intricate tapestry woven from shared experiences and anxieties, retains an imprint of profound loss, patiently awaiting the faintest thread of new information. The very act of these clothes resurfacing speaks to a universal, almost primal need for truth, a quiet insistence that some chapters in our shared history simply cannot remain unfinished. Consider for a moment the active role of time in this unfolding drama. We often perceive time as a relentless devourer, eroding memory and evidence alike. Yet in this instance, time has acted as a paradoxical preserver, a meticulously slow sculptor revealing its secrets only when it deems fit. It challenges our linear perception of cause and effect, suggesting that some truths are not merely uncovered, but are, in a sense, revealed by the very passage of epochs. This natural yet utterly inexplicable act of preservation transforms the marsh from a mere location into an active participant, a silent custodian of a chilling secret, holding it in trust until the moment of its destined rediscovery. It prompts a fascinating contemplation. What other profound secrets does our natural world hold, meticulously safeguarding them until the precise confluence of circumstances allows for their dramatic unveiling? Building on this, the enduring power of narrative takes center stage. Long after the initial headlines faded, the story of the vanished children persisted, whispered in hushed tones, a local legend that instilled a subtle, pervasive caution. The discovery of the clothes breathes new life into this narrative, not as a conclusion, but as a catalyst for its re-evaluation, its retelling, and its reinterpretation through the lens of modern understanding. It reminds us that stories, particularly those steeped in mystery and human vulnerability, possess an almost immortal quality, shaping cultural memory and influencing generations who never directly experienced the original event. This ongoing narrative serves as a potent reminder of the inherent fragility of life and the persistent human drive to comprehend the incomprehensible. Moreover, this unparalleled event serves as a profound invitation to sustained inquiry, not just for law enforcement, but for every curious mind. It beckons us to look closer, to question assumptions, and to embrace the notion that the world is far more complex and filled with hidden layers than our everyday perceptions suggest. The existence of these preserved garments, defying all logic, becomes a powerful symbol for the countless other unanswered questions that linger in the shadows of our history, urging us to maintain a vigilant and open mind, to continue probing the unknown with renewed determination. It reinforces the intrinsic value of curiosity itself, not as a fleeting interest, but as an essential engine for discovery and understanding. Ultimately, the saga of the 1996 vanishing, now imbued with this astonishing twist, compels a deeper reflection on empathy and the collective responsibility we share for those who are lost or silenced. It transcends the specifics of a criminal investigation and transforms into a universal plea for remembrance, a call to ensure that no life, particularly an innocent one, is ever truly forgotten, and no truth is left perpetually buried. The children's clothes, now speaking across decades, demand not just answers, but a re-engagement with the profound human cost of unresolved mysteries, challenging us to harness every available tool and every ounce of collective will to illuminate the darkest corners of our past. It leaves us with the poignant understanding that while time may heal some wounds, it can also, in its own enigmatic way, hold the key to unlocking others, proving that some stories once begun are simply destined to be completed, no matter how long the wait. Reflecting on this journey so far, we have traversed a landscape defined by an initial, profound absence and the sudden, bewildering re-emergence of something undeniably tangible. The vast, unfillable chasm of the unknown, carved by an inexplicable event decades ago, has now been unexpectedly bridged by a discovery that defies the very rhythms of time and expectation. It's as if a silent, subterranean current flowing beneath the surface of collective memory and geological strata has finally pushed something extraordinary into the searing light of the present. This confluence of factors, the enduring human need for answers, the relentless march of technological advancement, and the astonishing caprice of environmental preservation, has converged with an almost theatrical timing to ignite a fresh, potent inquiry, forcing a re-examination of everything we thought we understood about the past. The very nature of this re-emergence compels us to fundamentally recalibrate our understanding of the forces at play in such protracted enigmas. What once seemed a tragic, if baffling, void now carries the unsettling imprint of deliberate action, challenging the conventional wisdom surrounding the natural world's capacity for erasure. The astonishing state of these long-lost artifacts, defying the expected entropy of nearly 3 decades, speaks to an intricate dance between the elements and an almost unbelievable stasis, suggesting a narrative far more complex and perhaps more unsettling than initial assumptions allowed. This profound paradox, where the relentless march of time appears to have been suspended for specific, crucial remnants, forces a critical re-evaluation of every prior premise, peeling back layers of accepted truth to reveal an unsettling core that demands a new kind of scrutiny. It's a testament to the fact that some truths, rather than being destroyed, are merely held in abeyance, waiting for their opportune moment to resurface. In light of these insights, the path forward becomes clearer, yet simultaneously more intricate and fraught with unprecedented challenges. The investigative tools available to unravel such a protracted enigma today represent a quantum leap from those of a bygone era, allowing for an unprecedented forensic gaze upon the minutest details that would have been invisible to earlier inquiries. Yet this newfound capability is tempered by the formidable challenges of disentangling historical narratives from objective fact, navigating the complexities of memory's erosion across generations, and confronting legal frameworks strained by the sheer passage of decades. This intricate undertaking transcends mere data collection. It demands a nuanced understanding of criminal psychology, environmental science, and the very architecture of justice as it adapts to the slow, relentless unfolding of time. It compels not just a new investigation, but a profound rereading of the past, a meticulous sifting through the grains of time for whispers that were once inaudible, for patterns that were previously imperceptible, now illuminated by a new harsh light. As we pivot towards the final reflection, consider the seismic shift this revelation has triggered within the collective consciousness. A dormant ache, long relegated to the periphery of public awareness, has surged back with an almost visceral force, demanding immediate attention and rekindling a national conversation about innocence, vulnerability, and the enduring quest for answers. It's as though a long-sealed vault of memory, containing fragments of a collective trauma, has been unexpectedly prized open, releasing not only the ghosts of a bygone summer, but also a renewed societal imperative to comprehend the inexplicable. This convergence of personal grief and widespread public fascination underscores a fundamental human characteristic: an unwavering insistence on narrative completion, a deep-seated resistance to unresolved ambiguities that echo across generations, constantly seeking the missing pieces of its own story. The reawakening of this profound mystery serves as a stark reminder of how deeply embedded certain events become within the cultural fabric, shaping our fears and our hopes in ways we often take for granted. Drawing these disparate strands together, we discern a profound tapestry woven from threads of human resilience, scientific ingenuity, and the unpredictable whims of nature. The journey through this mystery has revealed not just the chilling possibilities inherent in the unknown, but also the remarkable capacity for secrets to endure, sometimes for an astonishing duration, before making their dramatic appearance on the stage of public scrutiny. We stand at a unique juncture where the relentless pursuit of truth meets the enigmatic forces that both conceal and ultimately unveil. This sustained inquiry, propelled by an enduring sense of wonder and a deep commitment to understanding, prepares us to confront the ultimate implications of such an extraordinary saga, inviting us to look beyond the immediate facts and ponder the deeper currents that shape our perception of reality, justice, and the passage of time itself. The sun-faded beach towel, once a cruel relic of absence, now finds itself overshadowed by a new, more profound symbol, the perfectly preserved clothes unearthed from the marsh. This astonishing discovery, nearly 3 decades after 10 children vanished into the Florida summer of 1996, has not merely reopened a cold case, it has ripped open a wound in the national psyche, forcing us to confront the unsettling truth that some stories refuse to be silenced by the passage of time. The initial shock, the decades of agonizing uncertainty, and now the bewildering clarity of these artifacts collectively underscore a powerful message. The past, no matter how deeply buried or meticulously concealed, possesses an uncanny tenacity, a stubborn insistence on its own eventual revelation. We are left not just with renewed questions about what happened that fateful day, but with a profound meditation on the very nature of time, memory, and the human quest for an elusive truth. This particular mystery, now amplified by the sheer anomaly of its physical evidence, forces us to reconsider our relationship with the unknown. For so long, the ocean was the silent, indifferent antagonist, swallowing up hope and leaving only speculation in its wake. Now, the marsh, a different kind of wilderness, emerges as a paradoxical preserver, a natural archive that held its secrets with an almost deliberate patience. The meticulous folding of these garments, defying the chaos of natural decay, transforms them from mere evidence into a chilling testament to intentionality. It speaks not just of a crime, but of a calculated act designed to confound, to torment, to leave an indelible mark on the fabric of time itself. This level of deliberate preservation, whether achieved through an intimate understanding of the environment or an act of perverse ritual, elevates the mystery beyond a simple disappearance into a chilling psychological puzzle, forcing us to confront the depths of human cunning and the enduring echoes of malevolence. The implications of this reawakening extend far beyond the immediate pursuit of justice, touching upon the very essence of collective memory and societal healing. For the families, the re-emergence of these items is a bittersweet awakening, a confirmation of existence intertwined with a resurgence of raw grief and bewildering hope. For the wider community, and indeed the nation, it serves as a stark reminder that some narratives, once etched into the public consciousness, retain an almost mythical power, shaping our understanding of vulnerability and the relentless human drive for closure. It challenges us to reflect on how we, as a society, grapple with unresolved trauma, and how the passage of time, while often a balm, can also be an elaborate stage for the dramatic unveiling of long-held secrets. This experience compels us to consider the profound weight of what remains unsaid and the transformative power of even the smallest fragment of truth. Moreover, this saga stands as a powerful testament to the ever-evolving frontier of knowledge and the unwavering spirit of human inquiry. What was once deemed impossible to recover, lost irrevocably to the elements, has now been brought to light through an extraordinary confluence of circumstance and potentially the sophisticated forensic tools unimaginable 3 decades ago. It encourages us to maintain an insatiable curiosity, to question established limits, and to understand that the pursuit of knowledge is an ongoing, dynamic process. The very existence of these preserved clothes is a beacon, illuminating the potential for future discoveries in other long-dormant mysteries, reminding us that even the most impenetrable walls of the past can, given enough time and ingenuity, yield their hidden truths. It's a subtle call to never cease probing, never cease asking, and never cease believing in the possibility of revelation, however improbable. Ultimately, the tale of the vanished children of 96, now dramatically reshaped, is more than just a crime story. It is a profound rumination on the enduring human spirit in the face of the inexplicable. It reminds us that every life holds an intrinsic value, and every story deserves its ending, no matter how long the wait. The faded fabrics, once vibrant with youthful energy, now speak across decades, not just of a silent, chilling truth, but of an unyielding demand for remembrance and understanding. They are a poignant testament to the fact that while the waves may erase footprints and the winds may scatter whispers, some narratives are simply too powerful, too deeply etched into the human experience to ever truly disappear. The true practice begins now, to listen to these silent voices from the past, to embrace the complex truths they unveil, and to uphold the unwavering commitment to illuminate the darkest corners of our shared history, ensuring that no story is ever truly lost to the indifferent march of time. This is the enduring legacy of the vanished, a legacy that continues to unfold, beckoning us forward into the enduring mystery.